fun facts about the riots. I was talking to a police officer early on today, and he said to me, the spectacle of armed mobs from the preferred demographic walking through the streets of Birmingham is nothing new. He told me that several years ago, when he was serving as an officer, he's retired now, when he was serving as an officer, he policed an incident where armed men with baseball bats, men with machetes, men with swords, dressed in black, balaclavaed up, were going to police their own areas, and were allowed to, and the police were told to stand back. So that's nothing new. Now, I don't believe for a minute that if, let's say, a crowd of Birmingham City football fans suddenly decided that they want to police their own matches and they had baseball bats and swords and machetes, that they'd be allowed to walk the streets of London. So when Mark Rowley says that it's nonsense that there's two-tier policing, when two-tier Keir says it's nonsense that there's two-tier policing, they're being extremely disingenuous. This is not a one-off. This isn't just happened. This is a long-term problem and issue. The other point is, when it comes to the riots and the demonstrations, two-tier Keir himself has caused a lot of these problems. When he said he was going to get extra support for the Muslim community, he was saying that the Muslim community were under threat. Now, there's two things, or two or three things we've got to look at when we talk about this. First of all, from the, let's say, the part of the movement that I'm involved in, which is basically Tommy Robinson, Lawrence Fox, Maya Toosey, Paul Thorpe, all those sorts of people. A loose coalition of patriotic social media journalists and commentators that have been organising the last couple of demonstrations and speaking at them. Well, none of us were involved in any of the disorder. None of us incited any of the disorder. And right the way through the whole time that the disorder was taking place, we were very, very careful to say, and we were meticulous about this, that there should be no violence at any protest. And many of the commentators said there shouldn't even be protests. Now, I disagree with that. I think legitimate, legal, lawful protest is every Englishman's right to go out and protest lawfully and speak his mind. Again, as long as he's not inciting violence, as long as he's not inciting people to do horrible things to people, every man has a right and every woman has a right to go and stand and protest whenever and wherever they want. And I think under law that's pretty much the way it is with static protests. But some of the guys said don't even protest, which is fair enough. That's their opinion. But all of us, to a man, said no violence, be calm, don't get involved in any rioting, don't get involved in attacking Muslims, don't get involved in anything that's going to land you in prison for a long time. Very, very clear message from us, right from the very beginning of this. And again, condemning all the violence along the way. Whereas Keir was partisan. Keir created a problem where there wasn't one. And I've said it before in videos. That's what brought the Muslims to the streets in big numbers. And I think there's got to be questions asked about how armed men are allowed to walk around the street, about how there's a breakout that attacks a pub and beats a man so badly that his liver's ruptured. You know, and that guy wasn't a young man, I think he's 51 years old. So those sort of injuries can have life-changing effects. So the reality is that Keir Starmer has used what's happened after the outpouring of grief for those 3 little girls that were killed, has used the whole situation to bring about the most repressive, totalitarian state that the United Kingdom has seen for well over 300 years. And we must peacefully resist that. If we want to protest, we should protest. If we want to take a stand, we should take a stand. Again, as long as you're not breaking the law, as long as you're not being violent. But we must make our voices heard. And we mustn't allow these totalitarian communist commissars to silence us and to wipe us off the streets. So I think going forward that every single man in our movement, every single woman in our movement has got to realise that we may face our doors getting put up the hallway, because we are now living in a totalitarian, Stasi-controlled communist state. Well done to everyone that voted Labour, and my goodness do I regret encouraging people to vote Reform, but that's for another video and another time.